orally, questions and answers to questions, motions that be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice, motions relating to sittings of the House, motions for leave to introduce bills, presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained, public business.
Madam Speaker, if I may, I believe I heard the clerk laying an addendum to a report on the FLA.
Yes.
I would seek your permission once I do a quick read, if it is possible, to make a statement on the motion of adjournment. It is very unusual for an addendum to come for a report that is over 1 year old. Okay. So I'm going to have a quick read.
Very well.
And seek your permission.
Very well, member. Public business.
Yes, public business, as I indicated, the main business for Member Joyce Daley to make her presentation, and at the appropriate time, Member Morgan can do so.
Do what?
Not Morgan, Montague, sorry, Montague.
I Eastern, Miss Joyce Daley, Member of Parliament, to make her presentation.
Madam Speaker, I really appreciate this moment. Madam Speaker, Proverbs 4 verse 23 states, "Guard your hearts above all else, for it determines the course of your life." Leadership is ultimately a product of the heart we have for others and the vision we have been called to lead. Madam Speaker, it is both an honor and a privilege to be here in this honorable house as a Member of Parliament representing the people of Eastern St. Catherine. I am also very proud, Madam Speaker, to be shadowing the portfolio of gender, culture, and social transformation. Madam Speaker, I must first say thanks to the Almighty God, the giver of life and grace, for continued strength and good health. Special thanks to my party leader, Mr. Mark Golding, for his support and his leadership. But most importantly, Madam Speaker, the people who put me here, the great and the most powerful. Yes. The great people of Eastern, St. Catherine Eastern. They are the ones I really and truly are very grateful to, Madam Speaker. Special thanks, Madam Speaker, to all my workers, my office clerk, my drivers, my attendant, my CPOs, my secretary, Mr. Attendant is there, and Mr. Robbie. Believe me, I could not do it without them. To my councillors, Madam Speaker, Councillor Enos Lawrence, Councillor Norman Scott with the Mayor of Spanish Town, Councillor Donovan Guy, and Councillor Keisha Lewis. To you, Madam Speaker, you sit at the helm and lead the charge dutifully and diligently. I thank you. to the clerk of the house and your team, you have never failed to guide us in the right direction. To all my colleagues from both sides, we might have on that side our different ideologies, but I believe that we have one common goal, and is to represent the people of Jamaica. Madam Speaker, when I was asked, Madam Speaker, if I leave here and did not thank my family, I could not go back home. My son, who is overseas now, and my other half that is at home. My sisters and my brothers who are all overseas, because I'm alone here. But I want to thank them for their support and their love. Madam Speaker, when I was asked by the party leader to shadow the Culture and Gender Ministry, some declared that these portfolios were ranked lower on the scale of importance. But, Madam Speaker, I think my party leader was onto something when he also included social transformation in the portfolio. I believe he understood the impact that these portfolios could have in changing some of the social ills that plagues Jamaica. Culture and gender are instrumental, Madam Speaker, in shaping societies and driving social transformation. In 1981, Madam Speaker, our festival song by Tinga Stewart, and it says, "No way, no better than yard," has been an anthem for Jamaicans. But, Madam Speaker, for many, that is no longer the case. With high inflation out of control, crime and severe hardships, many are saying anywhere else probably is better than yard. For many Jamaicans, it is not the place of choice to live and work, raise family, and to do business anymore. Madam, many Jamaicans, Madam Speaker, feel that their economic and social status is regressing. And as a country, we are not progressing as we should. Madam Speaker, the promised change and prosperity is no more of a pipe dream than a reality. In this honorable house, Madam Speaker, we are so privileged to stand. Our primary job, Madam Speaker, is to look out for the interests of the people. Our only job is to hear their cry and find solutions to the problems they face. We can't let them down, Madam Speaker. We must show them that we are problem solvers and progressive leaders. We have to listen to the people. They are reaching the breaking point. They are frustrated. I am tired of hearing, Madam Speaker, that our people are resilient. Madam Speaker, our people without hope and opportunity have no resolve. We need a new direction. We have to right the ship. Our people want better governance. We have to restore trust in the government. We have to do more to help our people. They need a break. Madam Speaker, we have to do more to help our people. Without trust, inclusiveness, and sharing the pie in a more equitable way, any attempt at social transformation will fail. There is an intricate link between culture, gender, and social transformation. So, Madam Speaker, I'm going to look at culture. Culture influences our constituents promote inclusivity, challenges stereotypes, and inspires positive social change. Madam Speaker, we are proud of our art form that have made this tiny little island a global cultural superpower. Culture is not just for identity. It can become a productive ground and economic boom for the country. We cannot take our culture for granted. Madam Speaker, we are we doing enough to move culture forward? Madam Speaker, our culture is unique, vibrant, and appreciated worldwide. Madam Speaker, I must tell you that anywhere in the world you go and you tell them you are from Jamaica, whether it is through the music, our sports, even our vibes, they admire it. But the historical roots, Madam Speaker, has now become withered. But, Madam Speaker, if this continue unchecked, the historical foundation of our culture will be destroyed. Why haven't we introduced the history of reggae and other Jamaican genres of music to our curriculum? The music sector is a major contributor to who and what we are. But, Madam Speaker, it is trailing the more powerful influences of Afrobeat and reggaeton, which came out of our dancehall, Madam Speaker, and our reggae music. The truth is, Madam Speaker, that we have not paid enough attention to the musicians and the creators and of one of the most, Madam Speaker, without a doubt, influential music genres of the 20th century. They need the resources that will allow them to create and capture the world. Madam Speaker, the state of the world theater is a perfect metaphor for how we have treated our creative industry. Why has that magnificent theater been out of commission for so long? It should be a place, Madam Speaker, where each year our children can learn about their history through theoretical depiction. Miss Lou, Madam Speaker, Mas Run, and Barbara Gludan must be turning in their grave. The ward and the little theater should be a part of a national theater complex affiliated with the Edna Manley Drama School. Madam Speaker, where is the investment in the film industry? Why haven't we made it easier to filmmakers to acquire the equipment they need? And I pause here, Madam Speaker, because I looked at two premieres over the past 3 months. One with Sprague Benz and the other with Chris Martin. High quality. I believe that if we were to invest in this industry, Jamaica could be the next Hollywood. Where is the creative industry park with the film and music studios side by side? Can you imagine, Madam Speaker, how attractive and creative industry park name of Bob Marley, Perry Ensel, or Trevor Rowan would be? Such a place would be an incubator for talents, influences by the best musicians and filmmakers. Music and film, Madam Speaker, could become a major plank of our economic development. Jamaica needs to find the resources to develop these industries. The government must create opportunities for training so our young people can be trained in the latest movie and music techniques. We have some of the best Georgian buildings. Madam Speaker, I am tired of talking about it in this place. I just use my constituency of Spanish Town and its environment. Yes, because she is there too. Which have been vandalized, Madam Speaker, and abandoned. Where is the budget to restore these buildings? And I'm very serious. They could be used for educational and tourism purposes. They could become income generators for underserved communities. And I hear somebody say, community life matter. Madam Speaker, I have not even touched the surface of our culture. If honest, could change the economic outlook and the lives of so many of our Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, the budget alone can tell you for 2023-24 is woefully inadequate. If we are really serious, and I believe it, almost none. Madam Speaker, if we are really serious about maximizing our output of our rich culture, we have to take a new approach. Research has shown that participation in cultural activities contributes to our well-being and development of communities. Madam Speaker, we must dance a yard first and nurture brand Jamaica at the local level. Embracing our rich cultural heritage and developing attractions and activities will attract more locals and international visitors and lead to better job opportunities, especially, again, in the rural parishes. Madam Speaker, we know that that a rising tide lifts all boats. Sadly though, Madam Speaker, too many boats are stuck in the sand, and some of them have holes. If we don't repair the damage and give them the push they need, they will stay there and rot. Madam Speaker, I now turn to the portfolio of gender. Madam Speaker, the daily news, stories, and statistics tells a damning story of interpersonal relationships across this country. Madam Speaker, 1/3 of our women say they have experienced gender-based violence some way or the other. And Madam Speaker, we are not leaving out the men. Just this past week, it was reported that women initiate 40% of intimate partner violence. So, Madam Speaker, you realize gender-based violence is really a crisis. Much effort has been made, I'm not going to tell any lie, but gender-based violence remains an epidemic across this country. Madam Speaker, this culture of violence in our country will continue if we do not address the root causes. Our effort to address these issues should not be limited to talk shops. Right. We must actively engage citizens, including those from marginalized communities. Yes. Valuable, Madam Speaker, insight and solutions often emerge from informal conversations with individuals sitting on either the roadside benches or the corner shops in our communities. Madam Speaker, we must work on changing harmful cultural norms. Conflict resolution skills must be taught to every child. Teach our boys and girls to respect each other and find non-violent way to solve problems. Madam Speaker, public education must be expanded across various media platforms. featuring influencers, because you know people who can influence in a good way, from diverse backgrounds, who can inspire change among our people. Our legislative framework must be more effective in deterring violence towards our women and men. Madam Speaker, too often small conflicts turn into big ones because there is very little mechanism to help them resolve disputes. I also believe, Madam Speaker, that soft approach can assist in deterring gender-based violence sometimes, as sometimes the hardcore approach sometimes does not always give us the good result. Let us create safe spaces where respected community leaders such as our JPs, our pastors, our teachers can help resolve problems before they balloon into violent death. Madam Speaker, while there are national shelters, I believe safe spaces at the community level should be greatly assist in diffusing conflict. It is no secret that poverty, Madam Speaker, forced many, especially women, to stay in abusive relationships. We have to find a way to help these women find jobs or get marketable skills so they do not have to depend on their abusers. Madam Speaker, the high level of gender-based violence, especially against women, is a sign of deep problem in the social structure of our society. Madam Speaker, how do we train our young men differently and our women? These issues should be at the top of our agenda in this honorable house. Madam Speaker, in understanding the issues that continuously plague us, then we will be better able to combat these challenges. Madam Speaker, our aim is to eradicate issues of gender-based violence and foster gender equality. Madam Speaker, every Jamaican deserves the right to be heard, to live in peace, to have access to decent services, and to feel secure in their homes. We need the collective efforts of the government, the churches, and social organizations to form a national organization dedicated to promoting gender equality and addressing gender-related issues. Let us empower those who feel silent and inferior. Let us give them a platform to voice their experiences and their concerns. Madam Speaker, I now turn to social transformation. Madam Speaker, to have a cohesive and high-functioning society, we must create new conditions that will transform the lives of everyday people through economic empowerment, equal justice, access to services such as health, water, education, and personal safety. The transformation Jamaica needs now, Madam Speaker, work hand in hand with good governance. To achieve social transformation, it cannot be treated as a project. It must be infused into our way of life and all arms of government. We must take an inclusive approach to achieve the desired changes. Madam Speaker, as policymakers, we cannot just decide what is best for our people. We need to hear from our people about the challenges they face and the changes they hope to see in their communities and their country. As a member of parliament, Madam Speaker, our job is to ensure that the long-standing needs and the deepest aspiration of our everyday Jamaican people are fulfilled. We must do so while creating mechanisms for a participatory and a democratic society. Democracy, Madam Speaker, is more than elections. It is also about creating structures in which people can become part of the solutions. Madam Speaker, social transformation must be focused on raising the standard of living of our people, especially those who are marginalized and vulnerable. Madam Speaker, for the effective transformation to take place in our society, a number of steps must be taken, and these include education. We must improve access to quality education for all Jamaicans. Education transformation is critical for our country's progress. We must identify and nurture gifted students early, Madam Speaker, rather than allowing them to develop behavioral issues due to neglect. Madam Speaker, underperforming schools, and we continue to just lump them together because we believe that one curriculum fits all. We believe that the schools, even though they are not performing, must be given the same curriculum and must be given the same CCXE, and they must do the same thing like an immaculate. And when the grade is low and when there's no good result, we call them underperforming schools. My recommendation, Madam Speaker, for the underperforming schools, it requires attention, and a tailored curriculum should be considered for their specific needs. Additionally, Madam Speaker, we should provide the essential resources to these schools to promote an holistic development. Madam Speaker, our approach must be multifaceted, including vocational and technology training. And let me pause here. Are we providing the latest technological tools and information to support new career choices, Madam Speaker? Let us just consider the electric cars that I have heard being announced in this parliament. Are we developing a curriculum for mechanics that would enable them to understand and work with these advanced systems? We need, Madam Speaker, to ensure that our students are prepared for diverse career paths that can take them anywhere within this dynamic global marketplace. Madam Speaker, our technical institution needs better equipment and more highly trained staff to prepare them for the modern global economy, where it seems that artificial, because we are bragging about it, intelligence is taking over. Madam Speaker, another major challenge to education is the loss of teachers. We must find a way to retrain them. In addition, Madam Speaker, is low pay and poor working conditions. They are burdened with multiple roles, including, Madam Speaker, caregiver, acting as surrogate parents. It is time to put social workers, Madam Speaker, in the schools. Madam Speaker, I am proposing that out of the 3 years of the education training for teachers, we use 1 year. And why I'm saying that, Madam Speaker, before now, you would have students in school and you can teach them because when you go in school, they are settled. Now, Madam Speaker, as a teacher, and I can speak to that, when you go in school, you must start with discipline first in the morning, and sometimes it takes up almost 2 sessions to get the students to settle down in order that you can work with them. So my recommendation out of the 3 year in Teachers College, 1 year must be used to assist, to train teachers as social workers.
I agree.
Madam Speaker, with technology and so on, you don't need 3 years to train anymore. So take 1 year out of it to help with social work. Madam Speaker, this skill would give the teachers the privilege to address and identify the day-to-day challenges that students face. And this, Madam Speaker, will take the burden of the new guidance counselor, because you first have to go to the guidance counselor and then them send you to the social worker. So you would look at the situation in the classroom and to see whether or not you can deal with it, or you have to send it on to the guidance counselors. And Madam Speaker, let us not fool ourselves. We know we don't have enough money to employ so much guidance counselors and teachers. So equip our regular teachers so that they'll be able to identify some of these small things before they become large. Madam Speaker, we must improve informal communities.
Yes.
We cannot have true social transformation with so many living on the margins. One quick win is to regularize informal settlements and give residents a title to the land they occupy. Some are multi-generations, Madam Speaker. They are there for 40, 50 years. I also, Madam Speaker, support the construction of self-contained apartment units for low-income families through a government housing program. Madam Speaker, we must develop proper infrastructure.
Okay. Madam Speaker, I move to have the Speaker be given sufficient time to complete her presentation.
Members, the question before the House is that the Member of Parliament speaking be given sufficient time to complete her presentation. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Yeah.
Thank you very much, my colleagues, and thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we must develop proper infrastructure across the island, including roads, drains, electricity, and water supply. Madam Speaker, this is an area where the people are losing trust. They believe big contracts are given out for road construction repairs, and they believe the quality of work is so poor that soon after, and if there is a strong shower of rain, the roads fall in disrepair. Madam Speaker, let us look no further than Spanish Town Road and Marcus Garvey Drive. These major roadways leading into Kingston becomes a massive lake after every shower of rain. Struggling Jamaicans are left with the bill to repair their vehicles and to clean up some of the mess. Madam Speaker, who will take responsibility, and what are the consequences? Madam Speaker, I now turn to agriculture to transform our life. We have too many parcels of land that are idle. We must put these lands into production. Lease the lands to genuine farmers, Madam Speaker, not wannabe farmers. We have a lot of wannabe farmers, and they have most of the land in this country. We must lease, that they lease acres and acres and acres, and they are nothing more than the wannabe farmers. Madam Speaker, farmland must under no circumstances be used for housing. Concrete cannot feed our people. Our goal as we transform the country must be food security. And I heard the minister saying it at some function last week that we are lagging behind with food security. Madam Speaker, I now turn to community resources. Thriving communities need facilities where the children can play and families can come together for community events and recreations. Our community needs parks. And Madam Speaker, in the past, we used to don't pay attention to it because at home, and we have to be very, very honest now, you could get training in the home. But no, Madam Speaker, you're not so sure. So I believe the recreational centers and the training facilities will assist greatly in improving the life of children, especially those who come from marginal backgrounds, and for those who are in homes that are small enough that if you turn, it becomes a problem. They will be able to go to these parks and learn how to interact, socialize, and to be able to deal with conflict. Madam Speaker, I look at healthcare and its transformation. We cannot speak about transformation without addressing the crisis in our health care. Hospitals are overcrowded, and our people is desperate in need for life-saving operations. And those operations are delayed. Recently, Madam Speaker, I heard a story of a man about 50 years of age who was diagnosed with early stage prostate cancer. He does not have the money to get an operation privately, so he was sent to a public hospital. Madam Speaker, he was told to come in 4 different times. Each trip to Kingston from his home in rural Jamaica cost more than $20,000. He's still waiting, Madam Speaker, and praying that his cancer does not spread too fast. Madam Speaker, this is the reality of poor Jamaicans. Madam Speaker, we look at job creation. We can't transform this country if our people are not gainfully employed and they must receive livable wages. Our focus must be long-term job creation for low-skill, unskilled, and semi-skilled individuals. We need a labor force with a good mix of technical and vocational workers so that, Madam Speaker, when we look at the logistic hub and all what is going to come, we don't import workers from abroad. Madam Speaker, I'll be very sad to know that we have the human capital here, untrained, and we have to send abroad to get people who are skilled and trained to do the work in this country. Madam Speaker, while I applaud the wage plan with the increase in the minimum wage, but Madam Speaker, the last time I checked, it took $155.85 Jamaican to purchase $1. That means the increase to the minimum wage has been wiped out. Every time our dollar devalues, the cost of goods and services goes up. And guess what, Madam Speaker? They never come back down when the Jamaican dollar revalues. The people get shafted just every time. To transform Jamaica, we need not just a minimum wage, we need a livable wage and a mechanism to regularize and to review this in a timely manner. Institutional upgrade. Institutions like the National Housing Trust, our trust, NSTA have served Jamaica well, Madam Speaker. But time come, Madam Speaker, for us to look at how they are serving the needs of the people and if they have to be adopted to fit the times that we are in now. The financial regulator, Madam Speaker, is another big problem. We need to do more to protect the interests of our people. And Madam Speaker, I'm going to really now say something. It's not in my script. But when you ask an old lady or a middle-aged person to go to a bank machine to go and draw their money, and they have to give a stranger their PIN number because they don't know how to do it. They can't get into the bank. They're sending them to the machine. You're sending them to security guard, and some of us know what it takes. And they are the ones who expose to people's information. Madam Speaker, what do you think happened to these poor elderly who is not technologically inclined? Madam Speaker, in every country that is civilized, you must create a space for the elderly who do not understand advancement. You must say that this is where your senior comes for us to be able to help them so that they do not expose their business to people, and some of them who are strangers, and they become the victims. So, Madam Speaker, the banking sector must look into this situation whereby you're sending everybody to machine. Everybody exposed out on the road. Everybody know exactly what is happening to them, and their lives are in danger as a result of that. The financial regulators, Madam Speaker, need to do more to protect the interests of our people. Some of the bank fees and penalties, Madam Speaker, are too high and exorbitant. I hear our member of parliament talk about it, and not conducive to creating a productive society. Madam Speaker, crime and violence. We were promised that we would sleep with our windows, our door open. Instead, Madam Speaker, we have to lock up and seek refuge behind burglar bars. Jamaica will never achieve its full potential, Madam Speaker, if our people live in fear. We have to strengthen our security forces and implement measures to address crime and violence in every community. Madam Speaker, I turn to an item now, the justice system for transformation. And I know our honorable minister wants to hear this. We must enhance and modernize our court proceedings for civil and criminal matters. Madam Speaker, I know some things have been done, but to do proper transformation, it can't be a one shot. I know, Madam Speaker, that some work has been done to transform the justice system. It is not enough. Why does it take, Mr. Minister, Madam Speaker, to a year to get your record expunged? We come in here and we brag. Some of the people believe tomorrow morning they will just go in and they will be able to click a button and get these things done. And Madam Speaker, I am looking at what is taking a year, especially for minor. It don't even say when you do the major ones, you're going to do whole heap of background check. But for minor things, and this technological age, when it is so easy to search records, this should not take more than 3 months, and that is long. Give these convicted for minors offense a chance to rebuild their life with a clean slate. Madam Speaker, access now to legal aid. Access to legal aid. I did say that. Is another vexing matter, Madam Speaker. While legal aid is available, some persons either not aware or they don't know how to access these services. Madam Speaker, it is a fact. Madam Speaker, it is a fact. Madam Speaker, when somebody is arrested, my recommendation, the detainees should be asked if they have a lawyer. Just like how you say you have a right to remain silent. Just like how you ask, you must remain silent. I think they have something that name something like the Miranda law in the US. In the US, where you remain silent. And when you say you must remain silent as a detainee, you should be asked if you have a lawyer. And if they don't have a lawyer, they must be advised. Madam Speaker, can you protect me here, please? Madam Speaker.
Members.
Madam Speaker, they should be asked, and I'm very serious about it, because I'm passionate about people's rights. They should be asked if they have a lawyer. They should be asked. They don't, and if they don't have a lawyer, they must be advised immediately. No, they don't get any. They don't know what to ask for. And that's what I'm telling you. But Madam Speaker, you know what's happening in this country? Let me tell you what is happening in this country. In this country. In the different government agencies. There are so much things for poor people to get, but they will never tell them. It is into fine print. Madam Speaker, we need public education to tell people that it's our duty in here to make sure whatsoever. Madam Speaker, yes, right. As Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, you're getting like a protection here, Madam. Yes, you're right. Madam Speaker, it is true. Madam Speaker, it is a fact. If you go to NIS, if they want to tell you, they tell you. Anywhere you go to as agencies, and some of you MPs over there know the truth. Because they come to our offices when they don't get through. And guess what? They do not have the cadre of legal aid. So we need to make sure that when that is being said to them, we appoint somebody, because some of them in court for long without representation and can't get bail because there's nobody. Well, all right. Madam Speaker, I have a constituency. I have a whatever it is. That every day, people come to me, and when you send them back, is that time they tell them. When you send them back, Madam Speaker, and say, go back to the court, go to the clerk of the court, tell them that you don't have a lawyer because I cannot manage anymore. And Madam Speaker, you see the salary that them said big, if me get it this month, it ain't gone in a word for lawyer fee already.
Madam Speaker, on a point of order. Madam Speaker, on a point of order. Every person charged with an offense, even when they go to the police station, a duty counsel is available, an attorney to assist them with legal aid is available. Not one attorney can say we owe them $1 because we have more than enough money to pay every single attorney. Madam Speaker, what is more, we have so much money available that we are now begging people to access the services of the Justice Ministry. Member, you just tell all of them call 888 Justice and get information.
Madam Speaker, sometimes when you call 888 Justice, it go beep, beep, beep. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, they must have a right to legal representation. Madam Speaker, all I'm asking the minister to do now, because you have done some things, this must be standardized with standard in law enforcement practice. That means once they are detained, they must be told, just like what you say, you have a right to remain silent. Tell them same time, and do not tell them and leave them. Tell them and give them. Madam Speaker, I don't want you to tell me that my time run out, so let me go on. Social welfare system. While we have some long way to go, our social welfare is still lacking. We have done some work, Madam Speaker, and I wouldn't say we don't do some work. Too many elderly persons, children and other vulnerable persons struggle to get basic nutrition. Madam Speaker, nutrition is a serious problem in schools right now. Proper shelter and decent health care. Program like the PATH need to be restructured, and I'm going to say something about PATH now that I open in the vex. Madam Speaker, when you're going to a home and somebody give you a little TV, or one little two-burner stove, and you hear that because you have a TV and a two-burner stove, you're not qualified. It's true. Come on. We need agreement. We are here to represent. Yes. Yes. That, Madam Speaker, needs to stop. You get a TV and you get a little fridge, and then you hear say you're rich. Madam Speaker, and they are dying from hunger. If you look into the fridge, they don't have anything in there. We have to restructure the PATH program to better serve our citizens who are most in need. Now, Madam Speaker, the Minister of Information, if we are going to transform this country, Madam Speaker, the Minister is going to play a very critical and vital role in any transformation program. Because, Madam Speaker, you can't be transforming things to people and people don't know. It must lead the public education charge. That's right. Encourage, and it's not a joke. Yeah, we are in here making all kinds of things that people don't know because no information. The participation exams have to be defended. That is true. Madam Speaker, the participation of people focus on our freedom of speech. And that cannot be just spoken. It must be in the language that every Jamaican will understand. The Ministry of Information must develop programs that will help our people to understand how the government works, how the legislative agenda works, and the benefit that is available. Jamaican and all of the things that were happening in our country. Jamaican will adapt to change if we can visualize, Madam Speaker, the benefit through social transformation. Sensitization sessions and educational programs will be critical in informing and re-educating our citizens on the path to national development. Instilling positive values and attributes in our children are also vital for social transformation in Jamaica. Engaging communities is a process of transforming our society. It's very critical. Collaborating with community groups, Madam Speaker, can lead to innovative social solutions that contribute to sustainable growth and assist in advancing the economy. Involving communities in the governance of the country enhances the democratic process and strengthens the relationship between government and the people. Now, Madam Speaker, I know and I'm sure that when the next PNP government is formed, Madam Speaker, when we form the next PNP government, we will set the groundwork and is determined to transform institutions to better serve the people and improve their standard of living. Madam Speaker, I now turn to something that we glorify. And I don't see the Queen in here anymore. I don't know what happened to the King. Picture. But, Madam Speaker, our long-awaiting Republican status. While we anxiously await the declaration of the political liberation and the move to Republican status, Madam Speaker, Jamaicans want to hear how this will change their life for the better. The government must explain how our lives, our community, our schools, our healthcare system, and recreational experiences will be transformed. We, Madam Speaker, will we keep the Privy Council, or will the Caribbean Court of Justice become our final appellate court? All of this, Madam Speaker, must be explained to our people. The government must refrain, Madam Speaker, from making any hasty decision on this process. Madam Speaker, approach each step with deliberativeness and always with the interest of our people. Madam Speaker, this move should not be about a political legacy, but about our people and their growth and development. Madam Speaker, in closing, yes, ma'am. The late, Madam Speaker, the late, great Honorable Michael Manley, in his budget speech on May the 2nd, 1973 says, change is the willingness to look at your systems and have the courage to know what is wrong. More, Madam Speaker, more is not change. Change is to reorder the values of your life. Change is having a vision of a new hope for society. Change is to have courage to invest something now in sacrifice so that tomorrow's people may be free. Jamaicans, Madam Speaker, Jamaicans know what sacrifice is. The freedom of our ancestors was taken. That is the ultimate sacrifice. They faced the mighty British Army and the powerful slave owners in their fight to end slavery. Leaders like Norman Mandela pushed for a new constitution that granted full adult suffrage. Madam Speaker, the struggle and sacrifice of the people has always led to transformation. In the 70s, the people faced down external forces and stood with Michael Manley. Through their sacrifices, we got equal pay for equal work, and every Jamaican child born out of wedlock was given legitimacy and status. It was during that time, Madam Speaker, that we got important institutions like the National Housing Trust that really transformed the life of so many poor Jamaicans. During the tenure of PJ Patterson, Madam Speaker, we saw the transformation of the country's infrastructure with beautiful highways connected one side of the island. When you're reading, you read the other part. Island to the next. And modern and world-class airport. Portia Simpson Miller led the charge for economic transformation with the economic reform program and the reduction in our debt to GDP. Madam Speaker, Proverbs tells us that without a vision, people perish. Jamaica has been crying out for a new vision. Let us draw inspiration and courage from those before us who faced the gun of the British Army, who endured the backbreaking work in the cane fields. Our fishermen who in their tiny canoes brave the mighty water so they can feed their families. Our athletes who have faced down the competitions and win many times, and so many great Jamaicans who have defied the odds. They had a vision, Madam Speaker, for a better life for their children. We have a responsibility to honor their courage by leading with honesty, integrity, and a heart for the people. Madam Speaker, we must create a society where everyone has the opportunity to develop and achieve a better quality of life. Let us restore the faith of our people in this honorable house. Let us come together with a single purpose to transform our Jamaica into the place where dreams flourish, justice abound, love is abundant, and hope is endless. God bless Jamaica. God bless.
Madam Speaker, we would certainly like to thank Member Daley for their effervescent presentation. Madam Speaker, I now ask that the sectoral debate be suspended.
Members, the question before you is that we have the suspension of the sectoral debate. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Public Business Minister.
Madam Speaker, I rise to introduce an act to amend the Copyright Act of 2023. This is an act that arises in the Ministry of... An act to amend the Copyright Act, of Industry, Investment and Commerce, on whose behalf I take this bill. The Copyright Act of 1993 was amended in 2015 to, among other things, provide persons with a print or hearing disability access to copies or adaptations of published literary or dramatic works with the permission of the copyright owner in accordance with Jamaica's obligations under the Marrakesh Treaty. Madam Speaker, the Act is now being further amended to enable greater access to books and other copyright works by blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled and hearing disabled persons in Jamaica. These amendments are also intended to ensure that the provisions of the Act the provisions of the Act are more consistent with the Marrakesh Treaty. It is intended that such access to copyright works will empower persons with a print or hearing disability, including disabled children in private and state homes, and those enrolled in educational institutions who would not otherwise have access to such works. Madam Speaker, I'll now present the main clauses of the bill. Clause 1, short title and construction. This clause provides for the short title of the Act and directs that the Act should be read in conjunction with the Copyright Act and all amendments thereto. Clause 2, amendment to Section 2 of the Principal Act. The clause deletes the definitions of the term accessible format and authorized body, as the definitions are being revised and placed in Section 51, which is in Part 6 of the Act. The part provides for the exceptions to the infringement of copyright. Clause 3, amendment to Section 51 of the Principal Act. Section 51 is being amended by deleting the current section and inserting a new section to provide for the interpretation of key terms, including the following. 1, authorized person means A, for the purposes of Section 55A, a person with a print disability. B, for the purposes of Section 65B, a person with a hearing disability. C, a person acting on behalf of any person referred to in paragraphs A or B. D, an authorized body or an organization acting on behalf of an authorized body. 2, authorized body means the Abilities Foundation of Jamaica, the Jamaica Association for the Deaf, the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, the Jamaica Society for the Blind, the Ministry with responsibility for education, and the National Library of Jamaica, to name a few. Authorized entity means an entity in another contracting party to the Marrakesh Treaty other than Jamaica that is authorized or recognized by the government of that contracting party to provide education, instructional training, adaptive reading, or informational access to persons with a print disability on a non-profit basis. 4, Marrakesh Treaty, this is still in the definitions, means the Marrakesh Treaty to facilitate access to published works for persons who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled, adopted at Marrakesh on the 27th day of June, 2013. Further, subsection 2 defines who is considered to be a person with a print disability, and subsection 3 defines who is considered to be a person with a hearing disability. Additionally, subsection 4 allows the minister to designate other organizations to be an authorized body. Clause 4, repeal and replacement of Section 65A of the Principal Act. This section allows a person with a print disability or an authorized person to do the following without the consent of the copyright owner. 1, translate, adapt, or reproduce in Braille, large print, or other accessible format copyright works. 2, perform in public a copyright work, either live or another accessible format. 3, make access, obtain, import, supply, distribute, make available, and use accessible format copies of all copyright works. 4, take any intermediate step to facilitate the making, obtaining, or supplying of accessible format copies. 5, assist a person with a print disability to make and use an accessible format copy of a copyright work, provided that the person with a print disability has lawful access to that work or a copy of that work. 6, obtain accessible format copies of copyright works from an authorized body or authorized entity, including by non-commercial lending or by electronic communication, by wire or by wireless means, provided that accessible format copy obtained is used only for the benefit of persons with a print disability. And 7, distribute or make available accessible format copies to an authorized entity, or another authorized body, or a person with a print disability in Jamaica, or in a contracting party to the Marrakesh Treaty, provided that prior to the distribution or making available of such copies, the originating authorized person did not know or have reasonable grounds to know that the accessible format copy would be used for persons other than persons with a print disability. Clause 5, repeal and replacement of Section 65B of the Principal Act. This section allows a person with a hearing disability or an authorized person to do the following without the consent of the copyright owner. 1, translate, adapt, or reproduce in sign language or other accessible format copyright works. 2, perform in public a copyright work in sign language, either live or in another accessible format. 3, make access, obtain, import, supply, distribute, make available, and use accessible format copies of all the copyright works. 4, make subtitled films or broadcasts. 5, take any intermediate steps to facilitate the making, obtaining, or supplying of accessible format copies. 6, assist a person with a hearing disability to make and use an accessible format copy of a copyright work, provided that the person with a hearing disability has lawful access to that work or a copy of that work. 7, obtain accessible format copies of copyright works from an authorized body, including by non-commercial, lending, or by electronic communication, by wire or by wireless means, provided that the accessible format copy obtained is used only for the benefit of persons with a hearing disability. And 8, distribute or make available accessible format copies to an authorized body or to a person with a hearing disability in Jamaica, provided that prior to the distribution or making available of such copies, the originating authorized person did not know or have reasonable grounds to know that the accessible format copy would be used for persons other than persons with a hearing disability. Clause 6, insertion of Section 65C and 65D in the Principal Act. Section 65C, conditions for accessing copyright works. This clause provides for conditions that must be met for the provisions of Section 65A and 65B, which is exemptions for persons with a print or hearing disability, to apply. These conditions include: 1, the authorized person who intends to undertake any of the activities referred to in Section 65A and 65B must have lawful access to the copyright work or a copy of that work. 2, the work has been converted to an accessible format copy, which may include the means needed to navigate information in the accessible format, but which does not have the effect of introducing changes other than those needed to make the work accessible to the person with a print disability or a hearing disability. 3, the accessible format copies are supplied exclusively to be used by persons with a print disability or hearing disability. 4, if any person with a print disability or hearing disability to whom the copy is to be provided is required to pay for the copy, the payment required is no higher than a sum consisting of the cost of the production of the copy and a reasonable contribution to the general expenses of the authorized person with no element of profit. Section 65D, protection from infringement of copyright. This section provides that the circumvention of a technological protection measure for any of the purposes referred to in Section 65A and 65B shall not be deemed a commission of an offense or infringement of any copyright in the work. The memorandum stipulates the key objectives of the Act. Madam Speaker, in closing, this Act to amend the Copyright Act is designed to ensure that Jamaica becomes an even more equitable place for persons who have hearing and print disabilities, Madam Speaker, and these amendments are in keeping with international treaties to which Jamaica is a signatory. I now invite other members of this Honorable House, Madam Speaker, to support the passage of this bill.
Madam Speaker, the proposed changes are what I would call progressive changes. We're seeking to expand access to those who are from the what we may term differently able community, blind and other persons who have disabilities, to ensure that they can access content, but also that their own content can be developed. So this is the type of legislation that we certainly would support, and we hope that the members of that community can take full advantage of it.
Madam Speaker, I thank the member for his contribution. This is indeed a good day, Madam Speaker, in the passage of a bill of this nature that broadens access in Jamaica. I ask, Madam Speaker, that the bill be read a second time.
The question is that the bill be read a second time. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Copyright Act, read a second time.
The House will now resolve itself into a committee of the whole House to consider the bill clause by clause. Members, I put clause 1. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 2. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 3. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 4. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 5. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I put clause 6. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. I now put the title and the enacting clause. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Members, the question, therefore, is that I report the bill to the House as having passed committee stage without any amendments. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Madam Speaker, I now ask for third reading of the bill.
Member,
Sorry.
I do report the House as well to the House that the bill has passed committee stage with no amendments. Question is that the bill be read a third time.
Just before the question is put, Madam Speaker.
The question has been put.
Well,
The bill I just announced for the bill to be read a third time.
may I make some observations, Madam Speaker? Not for changes, obviously, because you've just gone through the committee stages. There's some comments, mainly to the minister or the ministry, about the state of the bill, where it is. Could you create my indulgence just a minute?
Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, sorry, I actually was just having a quick consultation with someone from the community, from the disabled community, because I had some information and just needed some clarity. And the point has been made, Madam Speaker, and I think it bears consideration, that the consultation that are necessary for a bill of this nature affecting the community has not really happened, And we're passing the bill. For one, we have not signed the bill, the treaty itself. The legislation is moving, which for good reason, sometimes that happens and needs to happen. But the consultation that is necessary, that one would have thought would have happened before a bill of this nature is brought, affecting a narrow community, but a critical community, because this bill is really about integrating the community into society and making an inclusive, that community an inclusive part of the society. You would have thought that on such a bill, there would have been consultation. There has been none, if at all. And I think that needs to be remedied. We just listened to the presentation just now from your colleague, Joyce Daley, who decried the fact that so often we do these things in Parliament and the very beneficiaries, that we, the intended beneficiaries, are not even aware of what it is that we are passing in their, for their benefit. This is one example. We have not signed the bill, the treaty. We have not given them the public education on the bill, and those are defects that must be corrected if we really intend to benefit the affected community. And it's very important, Madam Speaker.
No, remember, I hear your comment. I mean, what this bill simply lifts provisions in an international treaty that countries have signed up to and placed it into domestic law. It's not that we have discretion about what we can put into domestic law to facilitate greater access. Countries around the world have come together under the auspices of the World Intellectual Property Organization and agreed to the amendments to copyright law in domestic jurisdictions that will be allowable, that will be permissible in order to facilitate greater access by persons in the print disabled community, including persons who are visually impaired. And this bill just mainly lifts those provisions and places them into domestic law. We would be acting in contravention of the World Intellectual Property Organization if we sought to place into domestic law items that are not a part of the treaty. I know that the ministry, the responsible ministry, once this is passed both houses of parliament, will be engaging to ensure that there is knowledge and awareness about these provisions, both on the part of members of the community, but critically importantly, on the part of organizations and companies who can provide this service. Right? It requires companies being able to take advantage of these provisions to produce material in otherwise copyrighted documents and make them available. And that will become an industry in itself or a subsector in itself. And I know that the ministry will be on a mission to make sure that Jamaica makes full use of it. So I just wanted to offer those clarifying remarks, Madam Speaker. Yeah.
Just a minute. Madam Speaker, it misses the point that I was really making, though. No, it misses the point. It misses the point, which is this, that this is an international treaty. I understand that's why there's no objection about putting it in domestic legislation for the benefit of the affected community. But there's another component of this treaty. It's a treaty for the reason that it's a cross-border arrangement. And whatever the material that we may produce in Jamaica, some of that material can be either exported or imported into Jamaica. And this treaty allows for that. And that's why the treaty element, the cross-border aspects of it, is important. And it still is important that the treaty itself be signed, notwithstanding the passage of or the amendment to the domestic legislation. And that's the point I was making.
It has been noted, member. I now ask that the bill be read a third time. That's it. That's it. So what, the bill has been passed, no? Bill read a third time.
A bill entitled An Act to Amend the Copyright Act read a third time and passed.
For us to do any further business today, I therefore ask that the House adjourns until Tuesday, June the 13th, 2023 at 2 p.m.
I know the member asked permission, but just before you stand, member, I want to remind all of us that there is the continuation of the midterm training for all of us as parliamentarians. That will continue next Tuesday. You're reminded to join in and refresh your minds and brains. Member, you wanted to raise something, you said?
Yes, Madam Speaker, on the motion of adjournment. Madam Speaker, thank you very much for this opportunity to address this matter of national importance as it concerns the Integrity Commission and whether it carries out its investigative functions in a manner that is fair, impartial, and thorough. This is relevant to every civil servant, every teacher, every policeman or army officer, every public servant, every Jamaican who falls under the Integrity Commission Act. Last year, Madam Speaker, the Integrity Commission tabled a report after a review of the Firearm Licensing Authority between 2012 and 2018. This report was laid in March last year in this honorable House. At that time, Madam Speaker, I indicated that the report was incomplete. The passage of time has proven me correct. If it was complete then, why was it necessary for the Integrity Commission now to lay an addendum to the report after 1 year? And only review a part of the period it reported on originally. Significantly, Madam Speaker, the report then, in its recommendations, did not ask for any action to be taken against me in the discharge of my duty as the Minister of National Security. None. No recommendation was made against me, no referral to any institution for further action. None whatsoever, Madam Speaker, none. Why was that? Because I did nothing wrong and I broke no law. I, as minister, exercised my discretion in good faith, and I acted at all times in accordance with the law and the duties cast on me as minister under the legislation. This would explain why no recommendation was made against me, and there was no referral to any institution for further action. Madam Speaker, in April 2022, I made a public statement which was carried in both nationally circulated Sunday papers. The Integrity Commission would have seen or read that public statement. There was a deafening silence then. There was no review of the report then. But another public statement is made and the commission tables an addendum. What? It's like there is one rule for some and another for we country. Madam Speaker, this demonstrates bias, malice, and prejudice.
Absolutely.
This demonstrates that the investigative process of the Integrity Commission is unfair or biased and shows a lack of even-handedness as they act differently in certain circumstances depending on which person is being investigated.
Yeah, no credibility. No credibility.
Madam Speaker, the addendum is basically a review of the original report. So tell me, how can a judge, having passed a sentence, turn around 1 year later and add to his verdict? What? A judge of the same level. Madam Speaker, that's manifestly unfair. Furthermore, they did not review the whole period, but only a section, and then slammed the door shut, stating in the addendum that they will not disturb the rest of the report.
What? What?
Madam Speaker, no new information was sought or given. My quick read shows that they made the decision on information already in their possession. I, Madam Speaker, provided information to them in my public statement, but I was not good enough to merit a review. This is clearly prejudice, bias, and malice. Madam Speaker, this treatment can happen to a teacher,
Yes.
a policeman, a member of the JDF, a civil servant, a permanent secretary, every member of this house. Where is the equity, the fairness, and the accountability? Madam Speaker, as a member of this honorable House that feels aggrieved, I am asking for the Oversight Committee of Parliament that oversees the Integrity Commission to be convened to review and consider whether the Integrity Commission acted fairly and in a principled manner. The review should not be confined to my case only, but it should cover generally how the Integrity Commission carries out its investigative actions, its administrative processes, and whether it is fair and impartial in the execution of the duties in this area. Further, I am asking that the Joint Select Committee reviewing the Integrity Commission Act be asked to consider amending the legislation to give the ordinary citizen, the ordinary Jamaican, the policeman or woman, the army officer, the civil servant, the permanent secretary, and the teacher a mechanism of review and to remove the bar against taking the commission and its officers to court to seek redress. Madam Speaker, every Jamaican is entitled to preserve their good name and reputation. Greater care must be taken as to how we destroy that. If the ordinary civil servant or nurse cannot obtain a big law firm and consultants, we deny them the right to a good name? No, 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 Madam Speaker. That cannot be right. A way, Madam Speaker, must be found to have effective oversight of the Integrity Commission to make sure that they carry out their work in a manner that is fair, but at the same time ensuring that any oversight does not interfere with their independence so long as they carry out their statutory duties in a fair manner. Justice, Madam Speaker, must not only be done, it must also appear to be done.
Absolutely.
Madam Speaker, our system of justice guarantees your innocence until you are proven guilty in a court of law. The Integrity Commission is a commission of Parliament. Therefore, it must act honorably, fairly, and justly, as it wields awesome powers which can adversely affect the reputation of persons who are investigated by it. Ordinary Jamaicans who fall under the preview of the Act must have an accessible means to vindicate their reputation when they have been treated unfairly by the Commission. An opportunity under the law must be given to the ordinary citizen for the right for their opinions to be heard. Madam Speaker, a report should be sent to the affected party and their comments should form a part of the final report to be laid in Parliament. That, Madam Speaker, is basic justice, which is the right to be heard.
That's right.
Madam Speaker, the convening of the Oversight Committee to review the original report to see if the principles of equality, openness, and fairness were applied. And I base my request for the convening on the following. 1, the addendum is authored by a different official than who did the original report without any new information. 2, the addendum or appeal is done by an official of the same standing or level. Paul, Madam Speaker, cannot review Paul. That is unprincipled, unfair, and borders on victimization. This is a clear conflict and violation of natural justice. The addendum is a report that is over 1 year old without reviewing the whole report is biased, prejudicial, and unfair. Madam Speaker, at what point or time does the Integrity Commission closes off our report? Will they come next year with another addendum? Or in 5 years' time? Madam Speaker, as the head of this branch of the government, the legislature, may I ask you to write to the Attorney General's chambers to seek their opinion on whether the Integrity Commission can reopen or add an addendum to a report that has already been laid, and if the process is correct and proper, without new information. So, Madam Speaker, I am urging you to consult with the Attorney General. Madam Speaker, we need this review to restore the confidence of every government worker, every teacher, every nurse, every police and army officer, every Jamaican and public servant who fall under the preview of this act, so that we may have their hope restored and their confidence gained in the Commission. And that whether you are rich or poor, from uptown or downtown, town or country, there is one rule, one law, one Jamaica.
Equal rights and justice.
Madam Speaker, I thank you for the time and the indulgence. Thank you.
Members, I have noted the contribution of the member, and in keeping, and I also noted that there were, on both sides of the aisle, all our members of parliament were clapping in agreement. And, well, not all, with the exception of two. With the exception of two members. All members of this house, because I'm sitting here and looking, and I have been requested by the leader of the opposition to speak. And so I have noted that the members on both sides have been in agreement and in keeping with the standing orders, because this is a motion on adjournment. I'm looking at 11.4. I am
Madam
allowing
Speaker, I withdraw that request.
He doesn't wish to speak anymore. Okay. Well, I am in keeping. In keeping, he has a right to withdraw. In keeping with the standing orders, 11.4, I will allow 3 members, and I see 2 hands. I was giving the leader first. 3 members, and you're allowed to speak on this motion for no more than 3 minutes. So I'll ask. No, I don't see it, but they can give.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much for allowing me to stand in support of my colleague, because I'm not spoiling it. What with you, man? Why are you so miserable? No, the reason I think I need to speak, Madam Speaker, is that in supporting my colleague, I realized that we have seen a trend in behavior, and I refer specifically to a press release that was issued by the Integrity Commission on June 6, where the Commission made allegations that statements I made could mislead the public. I think it is important, Madam Speaker, that while not going into the depth of the issue, the approach by the Integrity Commission in that press release against me does not associate itself with how we believe that an independent entity such as the Commission should behave. The facts, Madam Speaker, is that I was asked a question about a code of conduct that was being requested by the Integrity Commission to be signed in April by journalists.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. With the greatest of respect, the member from Central St. Mary, Western St. Mary, got a special approval from you to speak on a matter affecting him. So unless it is that matter, I don't think it's appropriate for a new matter to be introduced at this time.
Right. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that what I refer to is a trend that is associated with the unfairness that the member has spoken about. And I was articulating another example to support that what he's saying is not an individual incident, but a trend. And if I can support him by identifying a trend, I do not see anything inappropriate with that. And I was pointing out, Madam Speaker, that his incident is a part of a continuing act where certain behaviors by the Integrity Commission demonstrate that they are not meant. So while my colleague may try to stand up and say whatever he wants to say, I think it's appropriate that I raise the point. And I appreciate your intervention. Madam Speaker, the point I was making is that the Integrity Commission has been in public speaking about which cabinet minister has not signed a code of conduct. Yet, no cabinet minister, other than the Prime Minister, has been furnished with such a code by the Integrity Commission. In their letter, they have said that they will continue to release the names of those who have not signed without even consulting us as to what is in the code, what are our rights and responsibilities based on the code. And Madam Speaker, I think it's a continuing approach by the Commission where it disregards the rights and due process and fairness associated with persons that they are interacting with. And it's why I have to stand up, Madam Speaker, and support my colleague in his statement. Thank you very much.
Of your position, are you now exercising because I gave?
Yes.
Would you like to wait until after the member? It's okay? Good.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the member for Western St. Mary, on the motion for adjournment, raised a matter which has impacted him personally. It was in the nature of a personal statement, which normally persons don't respond to in the procedure. But given the way it has unfolded as being on the motion for adjournment rather than under the provision for giving a personal statement, I just wanted to say a couple of things. First of all, this addendum addresses an objection to the content of the report insofar as it, in a misleading way, omitted evidence that was given to the Commission. And they have chosen to issue an addendum to respond to that. And as it happens, they agree with that criticism and they have corrected it in relation to the matters raised by that person. In relation to the rest of the report, which largely affects the member for Western St. Mary in his then capacity as minister, the addendum says the Director of Investigations sees no reason at this time to disturb the remainder of the report of the former interim Director of Investigations. The report had been done by a predecessor. So what I read that as saying is that based on the material that they have seen or heard, they don't see any reason to change their ruling on those matters. It is for the member to raise those issues with them in a convincing way if he feels aggrieved, as was done by the person who they have responded to here. So I hope he will avail himself of that opportunity. I know that he's seeking an opinion from the Attorney General's chambers via your office as to whether, when a report is tabled here, that means that the jurisdiction of the Commission comes to an end in relation to whether they can issue an addendum or not. And we will await the Attorney General's ruling on that. I would just say generally, though, there's a trend I'm seeing from that side to attack the Integrity Commission. There have been attempts to, there have been clear attempts.
Members, I am allowing every member of this House who gets permission to stand and speak to speak. I have already indicated to this House and to the public that as the Speaker sitting here, when the member from St. Mary got up to speak, I carefully noted that every member of this House on this side and on that side, barring 3 persons, were shaking and hitting their desks in agreement. It is the right of the leader of the opposition to state a point differently from or whatever his views are. But the public, and I have said, the public will take note that members of this House on both sides, but he's entitled to his own view. So you have 3 minutes, use it wisely, you're gone somewhere.
I will endeavor to do so, Madam Speaker. I said and I maintained that I've noticed a trend for the government members in Parliament through the Oversight Committee or the committee that's reviewing the Integrity Commission to seek to dismantle its powers in some ways that would, I think, neuter it and make it ineffective. I caution against that. I think the Integrity Commission needs to be nurtured as a young institution and supported so it can fulfill its mandate of trying to eradicate corruption in this country, which is one of the most serious problems this country faces. And I think it's very important that Parliament not send a signal that would be interpreted by the wider public as suggesting that we are at odds with that motive. Now, insofar as fairness to individuals is concerned, I think it's important that individuals be treated with fairly. And where the Integrity Commission transgresses in that regard, I expect them to correct that in an appropriate manner, as they have done with this addendum. To the extent that the member for St. Mary Western feels he has not been treated fairly, I expect him to put the material before the commission, which would put them in a position to adjudicate that matter, and they can respond accordingly. But it is important that the Integrity Commission see fairness as part of what is their mandate. On the other hand,
go ahead, finish.
On the other hand, anything to do with reducing their powers, curtailing the scope of their investigatory mandate, their prosecutorial mandate, will not have my support. I am very much in favor. Much in favor of that institution being empowered to do its work, because corruption is a problem in the country. We have seen a lot of it over the last several years.
Remember, we're speaking to this point.
Indeed.
And you've made it.
And as for the leadership code of conduct, I was sent it, I signed it. I encourage the Integrity Commission to allow the members of the shadow cabinet to also sign it. They said that they don't have a problem with that, and most have signed it.
Thank you.
And I don't see why the other side is resisting.
Madam Speaker.
I'm not allowing you to go. I am holding to the fact of the main point that was raised by the opposition.
But it was raised.
Madam Speaker, on a point of order. Madam Speaker, on a point of order.
No, wait.
Has responsibility for information matters.
Have a seat there,
So that is why I felt I have a right to respond to that. That is what I have done.
No. Your opposition business person stated correctly. We're dealing with that addendum, and I appreciate your point of view, and I've allowed it. Thank you. And your 3 minutes.
Yeah, so I would just say to the member for St. Mary Western, if you feel aggrieved about the report, put the material, point to the commission to where the specific issues are, and expect them to treat you fairly.
Okay.
And I would support you being treated, anyone in here being treated fairly. What I will not support is any attempt to undermine the legitimacy of the Integrity Commission, any attempt to undermine their powers or their mandate. I think it's very important that we avoid doing that. And no matter how much you want to howl, it's not going to affect me, you know. I will say what I have to say as long as the Speaker authorizes me to do so. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker.
I allowed you on the basis that we're dealing with a particular fact. You are the first person who asked for permission. I gave you the permission. You said you didn't want it. You have used it. And in fact, you have gone over and above what it is we have agreed to. But may I, as a Speaker of this House, when you talk about the government side trying to minimize or whatever it is with the Integrity Commission, may I remind this House and this country that it is this government that passed the Integrity Act. And hold a minute. And may I remind this country and this parliament that it is this government, in its anxiety to ensure that we curtail and hold corruption in hand, that has created this act, because we went overboard as a government to give the integrity powers. And in addition, in addition to that, if you look through your budget, I allowed your leader to speak, and I'm now speaking. And in addition to the budget, this government has supported financially all the requests necessary to make the commission effective.
Madam Speaker,
you know,
the last speaker, Mr. Golden, Madam Speaker.
I am merely stating a fact. I am sitting here. Members, just a minute. Members, will you please? Members, I ask you. A matter was raised on the motion, and the leader of the opposition asked to speak. He went overboard, but he has a right, as I said, to his opinions. Now, having said something, I am merely indicating in his overreach, as to the opinion that he mentioned this side of the aisle, and I'm saying that this is a government that instituted the Integrity Commission, has financed it, and will continue to support it within the ambit of the law.
A member from South St. Andrew was very warm and fulsome in his support of my position for justice, fairness, and equality. And I thank him very much for those. However, madam, to continue on the same trend, a quick read of the report. He has advised me as an eminent attorney at law, and I will take his advice, that I should write to the Integrity Commission. The addendum clearly says that the other persons did not write. They made a public statement on the 3rd of May, 2023.
Exactly.
And Madam Speaker, I made a public statement. In April 2022. So in other words, Madam Speaker, there's one rule